hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Earth's Mightiest Comics in the Show, where every episode we talk about some new comics that have been releasing in the past couple of weeks, and we let you know what we thought about them, whether or not we enjoyed them, and whether or not we recommend them to you, even though it's a couple weeks after they drop. This week, another really big one, in terms of, significance of some of the stuff that dropped this week. We have, on the lighter side, there's stuff like Ain't No Grave, Absolute Power, Task Force 7, which is kind of advancing that event a little bit more at DC. More Blood Hunt stuff, of course, issues of Transformers and the Ultimates, but the big one that I have been waiting for basically the entire time this podcast has been up, because I really wanted to talk about X-Men. It is X-Men #1, written by Jed MacKay, and the artist is Ryan Stegman. Now, this is, as it says on the cover, From the Ashes, A New Beginning. This starts the From the Ashes era of X-Men. This is pretty much the first jumping on point since Krakoa started back in 2019. So it's been a little while. This is kind of the first point you can jump onto since then. And as a result, we started this podcast right towards the end of the Krakoan era. And so I was trying to work through it and get up to date on it, but I just didn't end up doing it before that all wrapped up. So I was very excited to get to this one so we can actually start talking about X-Men and stuff. However, I as far as the era itself, and both this series and just all of the myriad of X-Men books that have been announced, next week we got Phoenix, there's NYX, there's X Factor, there's Uncanny X-Men, there's Storm, there's Wolverine. They've been just announcing a bunch of different X-Men series, and I think the initial wave of announcements, at least, was a little bit underwhelming, mostly in terms of creative teams, but also status quo. And to be fair, I like this creative team quite a lot. I like Jed MacKay. He's done a lot of stuff that I really enjoy. We've talked about him a lot on this podcast. And I also, Ryan Stegman's a good artist. Gail Simone is doing Uncanny X-Men, and I quite like her work. There's a lot of there's some decent creative teams on here, but not many of them that made me really go oh yeah, this is going to be sick. This sounds really cool, and this is a really great creative team that I'm pumped about. Some of the premises, again, are okay, and some of them are kind of cool and unique, but I think a lot of them, at least the core books, it did feel a little bit underwhelming, because I think Krakoa was such a unique, inventive idea where it really reshaped a lot of the X-Men status quo in a very interesting way. And a lot of that was because it was kind of shepherded, at least initially, by Jonathan Hickman, who is, a very creative writer. He's doing Ultimate Spider-Man right now. He's also doing upcoming series Wolverine Revenge and Aliens vs. Avengers, both of which I'm very excited for. He's a great writer. I know people kind of soured on the Krakoan era once he left, but even then, you still had really great stuff like Immortal X-Men and X-Men Red, which are two of just my favorite X-Men series, period, ever. I think they're both amazing. So coming off of that just incredible run, incredibly, fresh, unique, inventive run, this kind of did feel like a bit of a step back. It's not them going back to the mansion, which I very much appreciated. I was going to be not thrilled if they just went back to the X-Mansion. But it's just this team of X-Men, they're just in Alaska. And, there's another one of them. There's another team that's going to be in New Orleans. It's all fine, but it's not really all that interesting comparatively to, this mutant island that is itself a mutant. And also them colonizing Mars and turning it into Araco. All that stuff was so cool and out there. This kind of feels a little bit tame in comparison to that. To be fair, I think some of the recent stuff they've announced for October sounds really interesting. I think some of those series do genuinely sound cool and inventive, and the creative teams are interesting. But for now, I do think coming into this, I was a little bit skeptical of what this was going to do. However, at the same time, I also couldn't help but be excited about it, because I love the X-Men. I touched on this a little bit last week, I think, but the X-Men are basically my favorite part of the Marvel Universe. This mutant corner of the Marvel Universe has become basically my favorite. I love the X-Men. I think they're great. It's just a really cool area of this universe to explore. So going into this, I was still fairly excited. And I don't think it's groundbreaking, this first issue, but I did like it generally. I think it was a very solid first issue and did kind of set my mind at ease a little bit about some of the hesitations I had with this era. I think at least this core book I will enjoy. The mission statement is maybe a little bit generic, because essentially it's this issue kind of establishes what this team of X-Men is going to be doing. And it's essentially just doing kind of what the Marauders were doing in the last in Krakoan era. They just go and they're trying to just rescue mutants. So in this issue in particular, we have kind of two separate points, right? We have the X-Men strike team, which is Cyclops, Psylocke, Kid Omega, Temper, Magic, and Juggernaut going on they're doing a mission. Basically, this mission in particular, they're trying to save Wolverine, but also they have recently seen Cerebro has picked up 6 new mutants that all just went off at once. Their powers just manifested. So they're going to try and get those mutants safe, get Wolverine out of there, and just kind of, make sure everything's fine. So they go to the base. They have kind of a big fight. Turns out there's some Orcus people left over there. So it is still kind of wrapping up some of the Krakoa stuff with Orcus remnants still being left over. But this is also a different sect of Orcus. It's like Generation 4 or whatever, where...
Fourth Amendment Orcus or something.
Yeah, where they're not like trying to kill all the mutants. They now are like, well, mutants are the next step in evolution. So, and combined with the advancements, the many advancements, large advancements in AI recently, they're like, okay, what we're going to do, we're going to combine our human physiology with mutant physiology, as well as integrating AI into like our bodies to become like the ultimate, species. So that's been done. They shut it down. And that's kind of that on that front. The other part of it is, this like sheriff from the town in Alaska where the X-Men have set up base. She goes to visit the X-Men just to kind of be like, hey, just to kind of try and like set the townspeople at ease after the X-Men just kind of moved in and set up shop there, kind of gauge what they're doing there and see what the whole situation is. So it's Beast showing her around that their base, which is like in a factory that used to make Sentinels. So they go through there. Beast is kind of, he's trying to like set her mind at ease. He's being very, nice and cordial and everything. I guess this does mean that we have like good Beast back because I don't know if you know this, Sebastian, but Krakoan era Beast was a fucking lunatic. He was just a straight up villain. He was like the main villain of the X-Force book and a lot of the Wolverine book during the Krakoan era for like a long period. I know there were some weird time travel shenanigans towards the end. I haven't read that stuff yet, but so the nice just original Beast has been not original Beast because he's the blue furry version, but the main version of Beast is back now. They also run into Magneto there, who's the other member of the team, and Magneto kind of has the opposite tactic where he's trying to just like freak her out and be like, "Don't fucking mess with us," because we're gonna fuck all of you guys up. So as far as the broad scheme of the issue, I generally like it. Again, the mission statement I don't think is necessarily super compelling yet, because it is a lot of kind of stuff we've seen before. It's just like the X-Men going and saving people. And while I think that's great, because I love seeing superheroes and superhero teams just like going and saving people, it's not necessarily enough to get me invested in a whole book. However, there is also presumably more under the surface that will kind of bubble up as the run goes on. I would hope so, at least. And the other thing that I think actually worked really well about this is Jed MacKay, he's also doing... he's doing a bunch of stuff. He's doing Bloodhunt. He's doing Moon Knight. Just, he's about to finish up his Doctor Strange run, but he's also doing Avengers. And a big complaint that I have had, and I've kind of said this over and over again on the show, but I don't think the team dynamic of the Avengers book that he's writing has really been great. I think it started to get a little bit better. And I think especially in that first Bloodhunt tie-in with the B team of Avengers, I think that works really well. But even then, we have actually another Avengers issue we're going to be talking about later in the show today. I think that has fallen off again. However, I think the team dynamic here is pretty good. I liked it quite a bit. Not everybody gets their moment to shine in this quite yet, because it's a pretty big team. But I think, we have good moments with Scott. We have a good moment between Scott and Beast. I think Magneto is cool enough here. I really like they kind of are having this little friendship start to form between Magic and Juggernaut. I think that's really fun. They don't do much of it yet, but that was a fun little moment there, I thought. Psylocke doesn't get a whole lot to do in this issue. Kid Omega gets a little bit, but not a whole lot. And then Temper, who I think is new, she doesn't get that much to do either. But I think that's okay for now. Like, we're establishing this team. We're establishing this new era of X-Men. So I don't necessarily mind that not everybody gets their moment to shine yet, as long as it does happen eventually. And then the other thing I do think, I like the lineup here as well. I think it's interesting. I think, with Jed MacKay's Avengers run, again, we mentioned this a lot, but it's the very safe team. Outside of, if you, especially if you replaced Sam Wilson with Steve Rogers on that team, it'd be like the most generic standard Avengers team ever.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I don't feel like is quite there, right? You have some big, absolutely big names on it. You got Beast, you got Cyclops, you got Magneto. But I think also like putting like Juggernaut and Magic and Psylocke and Kid Omega and Temper on the team, like these are all kind of lesser known, maybe not lesser known, but they're kind of less popular characters. They're less, used in these stories. And so I think that's cool. I think it's good to have a mix of really, big characters that everybody likes, as well as some of these smaller characters to then, maybe increase their popularity through the use of them in combination with these other bigger characters. So not perfect. It's not necessarily making me like super, super pumped for the upcoming issues, but I think a very solid first step. And again, I just love the X-Men, and I'm happy to be able to talk about it. So I quite like this one.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this was pretty good. This isn't my first X-Men book. I read, what was that? I think it was Red.
Yeah, you read one issue of X-Men Red.
Yeah.
Which is not a good jumping on point. It really throws you in the deep end on that one.
Yeah, I was lost in the sauce reading that one.
X-Men Red is great, though. It's really good, yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot to say about Krakoa. I thought it was cool, it was interesting. I understood a little bit just from context from other places, but I don't understand the deeper meaning behind that whole bit, and I probably never will. But yeah, I thought this one was pretty good. I knew most of these people. I only didn't know two, which was Temper, which I think is new, and then Kid Omega, I've never heard of before either. But the rest,
he also got a big boost in the X-Force book from Krakoa.
Yeah, but the rest I did know. I knew Magic, I knew Psylocke, I knew Cyclops, Juggernaut, and Beast. But
and Magneto.
And Magneto. He's not on the cover, but yes.
He's not on the cover, but he is on the team. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Team is like, I guess you can call it a team.
He's listed in the synopsis as part of the team, so I'm counting him for now. Okay. Yeah.
Like, I just don't know if he's part of the team. Like, team for me, right, would be like the assault team, right? Because like Beast, I guess you could consider part of the team, but like he's just
right, and he's not on the strike team.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's team is weird word there, but
I'm sure Magneto will get much more to do as it goes forward.
Yeah, I'm sure he will too. We saw Wolverine for a little bit. He ultimately just decided not to stick around towards the end.
Yeah, it's like, fuck you, I'm gonna go hang out in the woods.
Yeah, because he's sick and tired of essentially being betrayed by humankind for being a mutant or whatever, which is realistically, I don't understand why people are so against mutants. If you look at the Avengers team, right, you got super powered people there.
Right.
Yes, their upbringings were different. One was essentially born with powers, right, which would be mutants.
Right.
They just come in later, and then most of the Avengers were made with some sort of science or tech or whatever. If you think about it logically, sometimes, I realistically, I don't understand why people hate mutants so much. But anyway, you're my mutant expert at this point.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you questions. So with this whole Krakoa thing, are there no bad mutants anymore? Because from my memory, Juggernaut was a villain.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah. So what happened was at the start of the Krakoan era, when Professor X and Magneto teamed up, they were like, Krakoa is for all mutants. So they were like, any mutant, you can come here. Whether you've been a villain in the past or not, you can come here. Essentially, they only had 3 rules, which were it was kill no human, make more mutants, and respect the sacred land, that land being Krakoa. So if they followed those 3 rules, they were just able to be on Krakoa, no problem. Most of the villains, it's there were only a few that didn't. Sabretooth was kind of the main one that was fuck that, no. Most others were just kind of chill, and they just came to the island and hung out with everybody.
Yeah, Sabretooth makes sense, honestly.
Yeah.
But okay. Yeah, because I was a bit confused because he was being super chummy and nice. And I'm just I know Krakoa's united a lot of mutants because obviously Magneto and stuff like that. And he was super.
I mean, Magneto's been a hero for 15 plus years in the comics by this point. Magneto has not been in fact, Magneto might not even have been a villain at this point since the fucking 1980s.
Oh Jesus! Okay.
Yeah.
Damn, I'm super lost in the sauce.
Yeah, Magneto. I mean, there's still been tension, but he has absolutely not been a full-on villain for a long time.
Okay, gotcha. Well, anyway, yeah, I mean, overall, I enjoyed this. comic for what it was. I'm excited to actually finally be able to actually start reading X-Men books. I would say my favorite character so far is honestly probably Juggernaut. I think.
Yeah, Juggernaut's cool. I fucking love Cyclops, man. Like Cyclops is so fucking overhated. Like he's not good in the movies, and so I feel like the general, population just doesn't like Cyclops. And I get it, but like Cyclops is so cool, man. I fucking love Cyclops. So, and I think he's written pretty well here. Also, Magneto's awesome. So yeah.
Cyclops was great here. The movie's doing horribly, honestly.
Yeah.
Overall, I really like this. Art. Art was also very good. Very, very, very good. Really enjoyed the art in this one as well. But I'm gonna give this an 8.
Yeah. I'm also giving this an 8. Yeah. I mean, now we're fully back. Like X-Men is it is just going full gear now. I mean, starting with this book, there is an X-Men book every week going forward. So, whether it be starting or when they kind of get around the rotation and they start going into issue 2s and stuff. But like next week is Phoenix, then it's NYX, then it's X-Force, then it's Uncanny X-Men. Like it's just gonna keep on rolling. So X-Men, we'll be covering them. Honestly, I got so excited off of reading this first one that I was just like, you know what? I'm probably just going to read all these fucking X-Men books, even if I don't like them. We'll see, but I might stick with all of them. So even Dazzler, Sebastian,
you're going to do Dazzler now?
I might. We'll see.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
All right. Moving along here then. So let's go Transformers.
All right. This is, Transformers number 10, written by Daniel Warren Johnson, and the artist is Jorge Corona. So, yeah, I mean, essentially, this is mostly a big character building issue. We have like Alita 1 and Ultra Madness are here now as well, and they're all hanging out with the group.
Hanging out is a strong word.
They're all hanging out, Cliffjumper and Jazz are getting tortured by Shockwave.
Yep.
Astro Train, he's doing shit. He shows up and he's like, I'm gonna fucking kidnap Spike.
Yep.
And then and then that's kind of most of the issue is just that big character building stuff. And then it pops up at the very end where they're like, Cybertron's here, motherfuckers. Cybertron's in Earth orbit. And that's pretty much all I remember. I don't know if you have any other memories of what happened in this.
Okay. Well, so I might blur a bit of 9 and 10 here, but yes, Astro Train went to the hospital to kidnap Spike. When they were about to reach the Decepticons, an Autobot that we had never seen before named Beachcomber basically like took out Astro Train, saved Spike, and is basically telling him about his life because he got like stranded on the moon when the Autobots were first like arriving on Earth.
Oh yeah, that was cool. I like that sequence.
Yes, and so basically he like never got powered off, but he made it back to Earth with the first moon landing, and he like hitched a ride back to Earth. And when he found the Autobots and Decepticons, he decided to leave them powered off because he didn't want the war to destroy Earth as well, like he knew it was going to. And so yada. So he decided to he basically vowed to always protect life on this planet. So when he saw that Astro Train was kidnapping Spike, he decided to rescue Spike, and they're on the beach, just basically talking about that. Going back to the Autobot side, as Alita 1 and Ultra Magnus, so Shockwave made a portal to Cybertron, like a small one for just Decepticons to come through.
Yeah.
Through that portal, Alita 1 and Ultra Magnus came through to escape some Decepticons that were back on Cybertron. When they came through, they met up. They saw Optimus and the other 2 Autobots, Cliffjumper, Jazz. Actually, 3 Autobots: Cliffjumper, Jazz, and Ratchet. Ratchet, I think, died. Pretty sure he died.
Yeah, I think Ratchet did die. Yeah.
Cliffjumper, Jazz gets captured by Shockwave, and then Optimus has to leave them 2 behind because Alita 1 basically is like, we can't save them. Ultra Magnus is about to die, and you're gonna die if you go back for them. So he leaves them unwillingly, kind of. So they go back to their base, which I think they actually go back to the dam where Wheeljack fixes up the Energon thing at the dam with RC. So Alita 1, Ultra Magnus, and Optimus go back to the dam. They tell Wheeljack that Wheeljack's super sad that Ratchet died. And then basically towards the end of number 10, Shockwave is going to torture Cliffjumper and Jazz, and then also he like basically takes enough resources from Earth. Like he has like this weird like vacuum thing, and he like is sucking things up. Like he sucked up like some whales and shit. He basically sucked up enough energy to basically warp all of Cybertron over into Earth to like steal more resources or whatever. And yeah, that's where it ends.
Despite me not remembering most of the issue, I really liked this one. And it's my favorite one since issue number 7 by far. I think 9 was one of those ones where it was just so like much action and shit was going down that it just felt kind of overwhelming again. And 8 was when I think we kind of started feeling annoyed with Carly a little bit.
Yes.
And so some of the character stuff there didn't really work as much for me. But this one slowed down a little bit. Some really great art by Jorge Corona. And also, not only that, but there were quite a few pages where it was just art and there was no dialogue. And I think the art really shined in those moments, like that opening sequence with Beachcomber on the moon and everything. And I think the quieter moments worked better here. I think the emotional beats landed better here. So just generally, this was like, I think this is definitely one of the better issues we've had for a while. And I think like this keeps happening to me with this series. It's kind of similar to how I feel about Birds of Prey, actually. Not quite to the same degree, but where, you know, I have not like disliked an issue of this at all, period. But there have been varying degrees to which I have liked it, and when I felt like it's just a lot because the action is just everywhere and it's just like so much visual stuff is going on that it's just kind of intense. And so it makes it kind of hard for me to really get attached to this run a lot of the time. However, issues like this, I really do get attached to the run. And, you know, every 2 or 3 issues, we get one like this where I'm just like, hell yeah, that fucking ruled. Let's go. So this had a real shot at being my pick of the week. I don't think it is, but it's close. I really, really liked this one.
No, yeah, I like you said, I enjoyed the fact that like for this one they like slowed down a bit again, and like just a bunch of the art and like mostly Beachcomber's his whole story, because like he was an Autobot, but like it felt like he got way more attached to Earth, and I think that's partly due with the fact that he was like alone for, I'm assuming, a long time on the moon.
Yeah.
You know.
It seems like it was like probably thousands of years. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not entirely. Yeah, exactly. So I'm not entirely sure like how long exactly, but like because they like obviously just like sped through that. But yeah. So he like definitely got way more attached to Earth and like the wildlife there, and just life in general. Not even just wildlife, life in general on Earth more so than just the rest of the Autobots that like have just been online very recently. I'd say like a week maybe. So yeah, overall, I mean, I really enjoyed this one. I wouldn't say this was pick of the week, honestly, not for me at least. But it's still a very good issue, one of the better ones we've gotten recently. So yeah, I'd give this one an 8.
I'm giving it a 9.
9.
God, I'm really trying to think like maybe that is my pick of the week, honestly. You know what? Fuck it. That's my pick of the week.
There
Let's
it
fucking go. It was between that and one other, but I think I'm going to give it that one. I'm going to move on and go and talk about Geiger. This is Geiger number 4, written by Jeff Johns. The artist is Gary Frank. Yeah, it's more Geiger. It's fine. I thought it was decent enough. I think I mentioned this last episode. I have a thing with Geiger where right after I read it, I quite like it, and then the more I kind of sit with the issue, just like, that one wasn't that good. But I still think Geiger is a solid enough series. This issue essentially it picks up right where the last one ended, where we see how Geiger's dog Barney got kidnapped by the electrician. So when Nate left to go find Geiger's book last issue, then the electrician lured Barney in, kidnapped him, and is like, come fucking get him, Geiger. So Geiger's like, all right, we gotta fucking go get Barney. And so in the last issue, they didn't go straight through the airport because it was full of the Oregon people. They just they skirted around and trying to avoid them. But this time, since that was the fastest way to get to the complex where Barney was being held, Geiger's like, all right, fuck it, we're gonna go straight through that airport. And then most of the rest of this issue is a big fight where Geiger just takes out Geiger and Nate. They just taken out hordes of these fucking Oregon people, just fucking killing them all like crazy. And then they go. They meet the electrician there. the electrician's like, "Fuck you, Geiger. There's a bounty on your head, and I'm gonna fucking collect the bounty." And then he electrocutes the floor, taking out Nate because Nate has the big bulky armor, and then he shoots Geiger with a shotgun or something, and Geiger is lying on the floor about to die. So that's the issue. That's the cliffhanger. Yeah, it's not bad. It's pretty good. I think it's a decent enough issue. The fight looks very good. Gary Frank's art is obviously great. So that part all worked, and the fight was most of the issue. So I think the fight was solid. The issue was solid. I do think like it's a little bit cheap, I guess, using Barney to just increase the stakes and the kind of emotional investment in the series. It is not by any means a new idea to do that, but I think it is effective. I think it'd be pretty shitty if they did kill him off because they've already killed one dog in the Geiger fucking books before. So it's like don't do it to another one. But yeah, I mean, I think the issue itself solid enough. Geiger, I think, is my least favorite of the Ghost Machine books so far. Granted, there are only 3 of them, Geiger, Redcoat, and Rook. Although we did just get the announcement that Hyde Street is starting in October, which is the horror Ghost Machine book. But yeah, this was a solid enough issue. I didn't mind it. I gave it a 7.
All right, yeah. I think Geiger's not one of my favorites right now. So, but anyway, moving right along, I will talk about Batman and Robin. Writer Joshua Williamson, artist and colorist is Juan Ferreira.
Let's fucking go. Juan Ferreira's art fucking rules.
So if you can't tell from the cover, they have gone to Dinosaur Island. But essentially, at the end of number 10, we learned that Bane is actually on this island, and so Batman and Robin both go to this island to basically find Bane. So they get here, and they're immediately met with a bunch of pterodactyls who, for some reason, aren't actually attacking them. They're just like flying away from something. But regardless, this like gives enough of a distraction to both Batman and Robin that they both crash land on the island. So they are like going through the jungle, blah blah blah. When her real name is Maya. Yeah, Maya. She attacks, but it's it's more of a greeting type thing, whatever that her and Robin have. So basically, she's the one that has been tracking Bane down the entire time, and so she goes and shows them basically what he's been doing. So we learned that Bane is not the only one on this island. There's another group. They mentioned I think they mentioned it. I don't remember the group. But basically they are experimenting on the dinosaurs there. They're like either taking their blood or injecting the dinosaurs or something. And so Bane is basically, she says that he's not saving the dinosaurs, that he's just mad that other people are on this island with him and he wants them off the island, but he's essentially kind of saving the dinosaurs because he like releases them from the cages they're in and everything like that. But yeah, so I guess in the past, Bane is the one that killed Alfred.
Yeah, I did know that, yeah.
Right? And I guess he did that right in front of Damien. And so that's why Damien has some beef with Bane. Because I guess Bane has been presumed dead for, like, since Lazarus Wars, if I remember correctly. So when he finally sees Bane, he thought he could keep it under control, but he can't, and he charges him on a dinosaur. So when Batman goes to chase him, he gets stopped by the throat by Bane's daughter, apparently, Vengeance. And that's where it ends, essentially. Overall, I like Crash more. I think that was her name from the last
Flatline?
Flatline, that's her name. I don't know why I thought Crash. Yeah, I'll be real. I don't know where Crash came from. I liked her, but I don't know. We'll give this Maya lady a chance. I don't know. I guess they're both trained by Rachel Gould or something like that. But I don't know, man. So far, nothing too crazy. Bane's in here, so we'll see how that goes. Usually I think sometimes he's pretty cool and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, art-wise, it's very different from previous art we've gotten. All of it was at night, and this one was just like super bright and during the day. You're just like, man, yeah, so different. Right now, I'm still leaning towards the other art, genuinely. But right now, yeah, we've got Juan Ferreira. So yeah, right now, I mean, the art's not bad. I think it just has to grow on me for now. After getting so much of Simone de Mayo's art, this one's just gotta, I just gotta get used to this one. But yeah, overall, not too bad. Stories like right now it's a little boring. Simply because there was just like basically just like a big stakeout. Nothing too crazy happened. So Yeah, I'm gonna give this a 7 for right now.
All right, I'm gonna move on. But let's do Dawnrunner.
Okay.
This is Dawnrunner number 4, written by Ram V. The artist is Evan Cagle. And so this picks up right after the end of the last issue where the Tetsa Prime has landed on the Earth. That's what they're all calling it. It's the Tetsa Prime. And so Dawnrunner and the rest of the Iron Kings, or Iron Knights, I think they're Iron Knights, they are all trying furiously to take down Tetsa Prime, but it's just not working. They're all dying. They're all getting fucking taken down. Like it's not even close. It's not even a contest. They're just being fucking destroyed. And that includes Dawnrunner. Dawnrunner is taken down out of the fight to the point where everybody at kind of base control thinks that Anita is dead. So they kind of send out a group to go and recover her body. Meanwhile, she's still linked up with Ichi's memories. And I'm pretty sure I theorized this. My theory was that that Ichi's kids were not actually alive, and it was the melding of Anita's memories since her kid was still alive but in danger. That's what it was manifesting, that Ichi's kids were alive and they were trying to save them through there. So we find out that Ichi's kids.
I mean, I don't know if you went that deep into it, but I do remember you saying something about Ichi's kids not actually being alive.
Yeah, and so it turns out that was correct. They died like right when the Tetsa landed. They both died. Yeah. And so Ichi's kids have been dead this whole time. And then like Anita and Ichi's minds really link more heavily, and then Dawnrunner gets activated again. But except she's not in like the tank thing that like she normally, like the big like glass bathtub that she's usually in, where she kind of controls it from. She's nowhere to be seen, but she's just controlling it seemingly like with her mind or something. And she has kind of fully melded with Dawnrunner, and that's where the issue ends. So listen, I think like this was decent enough. I think I still don't love this, but I don't dislike it either. The art looks very good. I think for the most part, it's very cool. I actually think it's easier to tell what's happening in this issue than it usually has been, which I appreciate. And I also think there's one panel. It's the panel where they do the title drop. It's the page they do the title drop where Dawnrunner is standing, and you don't really get the scale of Dawnrunner. And I feel like for the first time, because we've only really seen Dawnrunner next to these massive Tetsa, so the scale has seemed kind of wonky. But seeing Dawnrunner just standing above like buildings and stuff, it's cool. It looks great. The fight, you know, the action stuff was cool enough, but some of the more like the corporate side of it, where they were just kind of in boardrooms and they're like, we gotta figure it out. Like, I don't know, that stuff wasn't really doing it for me. I think the ending is cool. You know, there's only one issue left. I don't know whether or not I'm planning to pick it up. I'm sure Sebastian will make me if I don't end up actually doing it, since it is the last issue. But I mean, I'm definitely at least partially curious to see how this series wraps up. But this issue, as it stands, like, it's cool enough. But I do think, like, after how cool the cliffhanger of the last issue was, I was expecting maybe a little bit more, and this didn't quite give it to me. So I don't know. I thought this was decent enough. It was solid, but not something I was really like super hyped by.
All right. Well, let me tell you,
this was freaking great. Everything. Oh, this one was so good. Yeah. So Dawnrunner, you know, I'll start with Dawnrunner being out of action essentially, right? And you're basically in Ichi's mind, just seeing Anita go through that, and it all really starts going. I wouldn't say bad, but it starts to go all like everything starts happening as soon as she tells Ichi that like, yeah, your kids aren't actually here, and she like basically like erases them from the memory in a way, and it flashes back to Anita with that other lady whose name I don't know.
Kat, I think her name is.
Kat. They're in the car, and she basically is filling Anita in on Ichi, that like basically about his past and how his kids have been dead since like the first Tetsa landing or whatever. But like all while you're seeing all while you're flashing back between like what's happening in Anita's mind and what's actually happening in the real world, you see like Anita's body like in the bathtub or whatever. Like as she's fusing more and more with Ichi, like the like cables that are like going into her like body and like kind of like fusing her more and more with Dawnrunner, to the point where when she finally they finally get the bathtub open and to like pull her out, she's just completely she's become one with Dawnrunner, and that's why it comes back online, because she is Dawnrunner at this point. Like her and Ichi are like one and the same. And I just thought that was so good. I thought that was so cool. The way Dawnrunner comes back and you kind of see it like bits of it look kind of organic but still metallic, and it kind of honestly kind of is looking like a Tetsa itself. And so like I don't know, man. And then the whole corporate side of things, like that's yeah, like that's fine and well. Like that dude or whatever is like turn off the cameras. Like we don't want the world to see like basically Dawnrunner get destroyed and basically see they are all gonna die essentially because of that. That's very corporate esque. Like that's a very corporate thing to do, and whatever. But like just the whole Anita Ichi Dawnrunner thing just really did it for me. That was so super cool towards the end. Just how you saw like her fuse more like slowly more and more with Dawnrunner as the memories were going on, and how she was talking to Ichi and stuff. So yeah, man, I loved this one. I thought this one was so good. Easily my pick of the week. But yeah, man, I gave it a 9.
I gave it a 7.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. I'm gonna choose one from 2, and all right, we're gonna go with this one. What do you think?
Okay. I think it's probably either Daredevil or Falling in Love on the Path to Hell.
Honest to God, I forgot about Daredevil.
Yeah, I just looked at it and I completely forgot that it was on this week's episode.
Daredevil. No. All right, we're going with Ain't No Grave, number 3.
All right. That would be, Ain't No Grave number 3, written by Scotty Young, also drawn by Jorge Corona. And another very solid issue of this series. So essentially it's Ryder waking up after she did her dive into the ocean, and she wakes up on this casino ship. Or essentially, it's a gambling ship but it's like there's a lot of weird shit going down on the ship. There's lots of like interesting designs on stuff, and except if you lose any of the games, you just like go and get like deformed and turn into this weird like zombie, and you just have to work the ship for eternity. So Ryder plays a poker game with Madam Gates, and basically, if Ryder wins, she can get a marker that will let her essentially get closer towards death. If she loses, she goes and becomes one of those zombies that then has to like go and work in the ship forever. And then it's also spliced with a flashback where when she was with her family and the bank was trying to repossess their house because it was like a not a great season on the farm. And so Ryder's essentially like, all right, I'm just gonna fucking go and just play a bunch of games of cards, win all the money, just buy the house outright. And then she does that, but we learn that she cheated on both that and also in her game against Madam Gates, thus winning the house in the past and winning the marker in the present. Madam Gates knows that she cheated in the present, but eventually Ryder manages to kind of reason her way out of it, and then is able to kind of get going towards farther towards death. Except actually, she just gets like the people on the ship, they all get pissed and they just like throw her off the boat very very roughly. Yep. That's where the issue ends. So yeah, just another very, very solid issue. I think the art is really cool. The Jorge Corona art, it's very different than in Transformers, but I think it still works very well. It's a very kind of bite-sized little individual piece of this world in this issue. But I think this issue actually, despite not being quite as sprawling or expansive as like issue number 2 was, this issue I think does a better job of world building this world, because it's just showing you this weird, like creepy, bizarre corner of this world that they're in, which I think on its own, that adds a lot of character and flair to it. And it's like, oh, this is the kind of stuff that happens in this death world, as opposed to her just kind of running through the streets in issue number 2. So I think that was cool. I think I think Madam Gates was the dynamic between her and Ryder was cool. I think the flashback was decent enough. It makes a lot of sense. I think it's a very classic kind of storytelling technique to kind of weave that stuff into the flashback that then becomes very important in the present and relevant and all that. So just very solid issue. I liked it a lot. I don't think I like it quite as much as issue number 2. I really liked issue number 2, but still very solid issue. I think it was very good.
No, yeah, I've really enjoyed this issue as well. Thought the art was great. I like how we're like flashing back to like her life on Earth or whatever after she like gave up being a bandit. Yeah, being a bandit essentially, to like live with her daughter and but how it still relates to what she's doing right now, essentially, right? Like I remember in issue number 2, she was like gunslinging her way through town, and you go back and flashback, and it was her gunslinging her way out of a train. And then in this one, like you said, she played a game of cards to basically buy their house, their farmhouse and stuff. And, she did that simply because she didn't want to suck up to the bank. But overall, I don't know, man. I think this is pretty good. I'm really enjoying this series so far. Is it only 5 issues?
Yeah, 5 issues. So we got 2
Okay,
left. Yeah.
So 2 left. Getting closer and closer to death. So yeah, I mean, really, honestly, really very good series. I would give this one an 8.
I am also going to give this one an 8. And we are going to move on here to Falling in Love on the Path to Hell, issue number 2, written by Jerry Duggan, and the artist is Gary Brown. So, again, this is another one we didn't talk about for the first issue because we were on break. But essentially, it's this concept of this samurai and this gunslinger cowboy bandit dude. And they both die in their respective places and get transported to this island. And that's kind of the first issue. That's the premise of that first issue. And so in this issue, they meet this guy named Mohan. And so he's kind of the leader of this army of people who have washed up to this island. And this island it's essentially purgatory is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know too much of the lore behind it yet, but Mohan straight up says he's like, this is purgatory. And so he's kind of trying to lead them through the island to kind of their base camp so they can add them to their ranks. Essentially, they're fighting these like zombies every night. And if the zombies get them and kill them, then they basically will turn them, and then they will end up joining the army of the undead versus this army that's trying to just constantly survive all the time on this island. And that's kind of the extent of the issue. It ends with like a big fight with some of the zombies. The fight doesn't finish. It's kind of finishes in the middle of the fight. And all the while there's this chemistry building between the samurai and the gunslinger dude. They don't really like each other right now, but you can kind of see they're starting to at least realize they have to work together to survive this, and so they're starting to kind of cooperate a little bit in this one. So I think I liked the issue quite a lot, the first issue quite a lot. I don't think this one's quite as good, mostly because the pacing in this one felt a little bit weird. I don't know. It was just like scenes were just kind of going on at a weird amount of time. I felt like the way it just kind of progressed, the structure of this issue was a little bit strange. Their trek across the island. Personally, I kind of think that should have been the full issue, ending with them getting to the kind of army and preparing for the fight, and then they have the fight kind of take up the bulk of the next issue. As it stands, it kind of feels like a weird kind of halfway point between. I feel like if they had just kind of focused on that journey through the island, you could have maybe had more time to also build up more of the chemistry between the samurai and the cowboy. Their names are Asami and McWraith, by the way. You could have had more time to kind of build that up, more time to build tension with Mohan, because he seems like, he's helping them.
Yes.
But there's some tension there as well. We're not entirely sure, like, if they can trust him. And then we could have seen like just weird stuff happen on the island. I think that kind of would have been cool. But it's not a bad issue. I quite liked it overall. Still, just structurally kind of strange. The art's fantastic. The art looks really good. It's this like weird, gritty. It's very pencil-y. Like you can see a lot of the actual pencil lines, kind of very sketchy. But I think that works to its advantage. And that's not something you see a lot in a lot of comics. It is kind of a lot of it's very kind of crisp and clean in modern comics. This has this kind of gritty feel to it that I really like. So not a bad issue at all. I'm definitely going to stick with this at least through the first arc, which is going to be the first 4 issues of the first arc. Past that, I'm not entirely sure. This series, it does seem like they are building it up to really go on for a while. So I may stick with it past that. It just depends on these next 2 issues, I think, for me. But as it stands, this issue, pretty cool. I didn't mind it, but definitely some weird pacing stuff for me, I think.
Okay, yeah. I really enjoyed this one as well, actually. For me, the pacing wasn't that big of a deal. Like their trek through the island, I didn't find it too like off or whatever about it. It's standard thing, like just standard trek. I feel like this is like a very standard just trek through the island while the stranger that we just met and has lived here for like ever explains what exactly is going on to whoever, is just new that he's leading through the island, and then for them to end up at their destination. The fight thing, I feel like that one fit into this one very well, simply because of while he, like, I think it just fit into like the whole this information issue, essentially, right? Like he's explaining what exactly the island is, And then he explained, like, the ending is explaining what exactly they're doing on the island. They're, like, basically just how to survive the island. Because, like, they don't technically have to fight the undead. Like, Mohan himself says, like, either you fight the undead or you fight all of us.
Right.
So it's like, realistically,
as
you have
one of
two
the
options.
undead, yeah.
Not even as the one of the undead. Like, they're not going to just, like, kill them off for the undead, but they're like, either you're with us or against us, and, you know, you're gonna become an undead, essentially.
What's I think ultimately that's what he was saying, is it's like, you're gonna fight us or you're gonna fight with us, because you're either gonna be fighting on our side or you're gonna be dead and converted to one of them, and then you'll just end up fighting us. Is how I took it. Yeah.
And so I guess, like, they're like the last line of defense, right? Because, like, this is purgatory, where the undead are coming from is hell, which is like behind the waterfall, which every night just like stops flowing. And then I guess Mohan, if I remember correctly, Mohan was like, if the undead get past us, I think they go into the land of the living. I'm not entirely sure about that one. Or
maybe, yeah, probably.
If purgatory just gets overrun, I don't remember exactly. But yeah, so there's no escape from this place, according to Mohan. And yeah, there's some weird animals on this island as well. We saw a couple of things. I have no idea what they were called.
See, but that's why I kind of wanted more of it. This just trek across the island. I think it's shown some more interesting stuff. Yeah,
I think like as it goes on, we'll still get that, which I think will fit better rather than just show us all right away and then have like the mystery behind it afterwards. I think, as you know, because it's not going to always be nighttime, they're not always going to be fighting undead. So I think as the cowboy and the samurai like explore the island, if they decide to, like, you know, stick with Mohan or whatever, you know, we'll see some weirder shit going on there. So yeah, I think they're doing a good job right now. I think this is pretty good overall. So yeah, I gave this an 8.
Yeah, I mean, I think I get your point about leaving some of the reveals of what's going on with the island until later, but I think ultimately for me it's more just as a structure and pacing mechanism. I think it kind of could have worked to build up, do some early world building and kind of establish at least what this island kind of feels like. Because I don't know if I really get the implication of, or the sense of what this island kind of is like to be on right now. So they kind of just trudge across these.
Man, that's the mystery. We just
see, but I don't know if it quite is, because I think the mystery is more like, how did they get there? Why is this here? Why are they there? Why is any of this happening? But I think if you show some of the weird stuff, it's like the animals that we saw, right? I think if you show some of the stuff like that's on there, it sets a vibe for the island, which I think you can establish a vibe without ruining the mystery. And so if they kind of had a little bit of an encounter with like one set of weird creatures on this island, and then, you know, Mohan is explaining the island to them a little bit beforehand, like he did in the issue. They run into that, then he kind of explains their kind of role in trying to fight all the undead and everything, and then we see them like crest of the cliff. We see the armies down there. Mohan's like, "Get ready, here's the first fight," and ended there. I think that would have structurally felt a little bit more fulfilling for me. Not that I thought this was bad. I still think it's totally decent. But yeah, I do think the structure did feel a little bit weird. So I ended up giving this a 7. I didn't like it quite as much as the first issue, but I am still planning to check out the next one.
I mean, all right, they got there because they died.
I mean, yeah, but it's like, why did they end up here? Because clearly, like, the armies are not big enough for everybody who's died to have ended up there. So why are they there and not everybody else who's died? I think it's kind of more where I fall with it. Like, why didn't they just die? You know?
Yeah. You know, it's a good point. And who knows? Maybe that's how they escape purgatory.
They just die.
No, they figure out why they're at purgatory.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But anywho, we're moving right along. Daredevil.
All right, this is Daredevil number 11, written by Saladin Ahmed. The artist is Aaron Cooter. Now, if you listened to the last time we talked about Daredevil, I said in that issue that while I didn't love that issue, I really liked a lot of what it was doing, and I felt like it was the first step towards making me care about this series again. There was stuff in there that I thought was cool and made me kind of excited for the next issue. I don't feel that way anymore after this issue. I'm back to where I was before. I don't hate this. There's stuff I do like in it. There's stuff I like that it's setting up for the future. There's stuff I'm interested in about it. But I after reading this, I'm not like, oh yeah, let's go. I really want to read the next issue. So this one, Matt wakes up Elektra manages to get him out of the elevator shaft where he fell into at the
Yes.
end of the last issue. So she takes him back to the apartment to recover, and that's where Matt finds out that Jason ran away from the youth home that Matt was being a priest at. So he does freak out by this, obviously, and then Elektra. This is okay. Actually, I got fucking pissed at this part. Actually,
All right.
I think there is such a missed opportunity here because in the last issue, Jason is like, "You killed my dad, Daredevil."
Yes.
What I was hoping for was that. So actually, I just first of all, we learned in this issue he didn't kill his dad.
Yeah.
It was like Bullseye or something. I don't remember if it was Bullseye, but it was one of it was one of the roads. He was like a low-level henchman for him or something, right? Or was he just a normal guy?
He was a henchman for Bullseye,
right?
And he basically like Daredevil cornered him into like a building or something, and he like blew the building up, and Jason's dad got caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, right. So it was Bullseye who killed Jason's dad, but the explosion got pinned on Daredevil, so yes. Jason thinks that it was Daredevil who killed his dad. Here's the problem with that. That is such a fucking missed opportunity because it now means that we know the drama between Matt and Jason is going to get resolved quite simply. It may not happen for a little bit, but now we know that Matt did kill his dad. So there's no real tension there because here's the thing. Matt has killed people. Like Daredevil has killed people in the comics. I know he doesn't really do it in the show or anything. I don't think he ever has in the show, but he's killed people in the comics. And in fact, that was literally the kickoff to the entire Chip Zdarsky run, is that Matt accidentally, when beating up like a henchman, he accidentally kills him. And so spends like a lot of the first run trying to like, he thinks that like Kingpin went and killed him afterwards. He keeps like, he's not able to accept the fact that he killed him until eventually he has to accept that fact that he did kill him. So when Matt finally realizes that he did kill him, then he stops being Daredevil because he's like, well, I don't want to, I don't want to kill anybody else. I'm just going to stop being Daredevil. So he stopped being Daredevil for a while because of that. I think it would have been so much more interesting if they had made Jason the kid of that guy. Because then it's like, shit, Matt did kill his dad. That's way more interesting to me because that melodrama is now legitimate. Like, we know, we don't even know if they can resolve that, right? That makes, I think, things much more interesting, intense, and just so much just more engaging, as opposed to this where we know that Matt will probably eventually be like, hey, it wasn't me who told your dad, it was Bullseye. And then that just resolves everything, and there's no more tension to that. And I think I understand why they did it this way, because ultimately, I don't know how you write your way out of a situation where Matt actually did kill this guy's dad. That is a lot harder to navigate than him not actually killing him. But I read that and it felt like such a missed opportunity for so much good like tension and drama. And so I got really irritated by that. So there's another part of the story, which is Jason. He's going and he's like, I'm fucking mad at Daredevil. I've got this knife. I'm going to fucking kill Daredevil. And Bullseye is just like following this kid for some reason.
Yep.
And then he kidnaps him and he's like, you fucking know something, kid. Here's what's fucking weird about this, by the way. Bullseye's interrogating this kid for no real reason. I don't really know why. And there's a really weird point where he's about to like kill Jason, and Jason starts to be like, Daredevil is, and then it cuts off back to Matt, and then it cuts back to Bullseye and Jason, and Bullseye's like, tell me what you know, kid. And it's like,
yeah.
What? Was that a weird, like, just editing mistake? I don't know what the fuck happened there, but that was super strange. So then, ultimately, Bullseye gets, like, eaten by a demon or something. I'm assuming it's one of the sins. I think there's... it has to be, right?
I have my different thing about that one.
Yeah.
I think it might be Father Javi.
Why? Where is this coming from?
Right. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Earlier in the issue, we saw he said that he's going to go out, walk around the block to check for Jason again, right? That's the last time we see that whole bit.
Sure.
And then we see this demon dog. I think he can summon this demon dog, and it tracked down Jason, and now it is attacking Bullseye.
That is certainly a theory. If you're right about that, well done. I think that is absolutely not going to happen. But
hey, I mean, it is a theory. It could be a long shot. I was like, I don't know, man. This could be a thing.
I mean, I don't know. As I saw it as like, we've still got two of the sins unaccounted for.
Yes.
So that was just, and it would make sense that I think also I think it's probably Wrath, because we haven't gotten Wrath yet.
We have not.
So I think it's probably Wrath, and because I think that would fit well with Bullseye's character.
Well, actually, I think Wrath could also go to Jason.
Could go for Jason. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. I actually think that would be cool. I hope they do that. I don't think they will, but I hope they do that. So yeah, then anyway, we cut back. Elektra and Matt, they go back after Fisk. He's going and trying to kill his son, who's the new Kingpin. They like go and find him, and he's like strangling his son, and all his henchmen are dead around him. And then they have a brief fight, and then Fisk just turns into like an actual demon. Like he gets fire covered, and he's like, "I am greed," and that's where the issue officially ends. So as I'm saying that, there's stuff in this that's pretty cool. I think this issue, it's not bad. I think it's pretty decent, and I actually think if they if they actually end up going the path of having Wrath go for Jason, that's cool. I like that. I'm down for that idea. But I think for me, and listen, is this maybe a dumb thing to get so fixated on? Sure, maybe it is, but I was just so mad about what I felt was a missed opportunity with having Matt actually kill Jason's dad, that it did definitely mar the experience for me. I also just think the dialogue is not quite as interesting. I think the conversation between Matt and Elektra, I felt like I should have liked that, but I didn't really feel anything for it.
Yeah.
The Jason and Bullseye stuff was kind of strange. I don't know why Bullseye is going after him specifically. It was fine, I guess, but nothing kind of special. I do think the back end of the issue is more interesting. Seeing like the thing just pop up and try and eat Bullseye, I was like, okay, that's interesting, I guess. And I like the cliffhanger where we see Fiery Fist Demon guy. But yeah, I was disappointed by this issue. I think after last issue kind of got me more engaged with the run again. This issue kind of dropped my excitement back down to just kind of not existing. So yeah.
Yeah. So I can see your whole point about Daredevil actually killing his dad. I think that would have been actually a very, 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 very good idea. That whole, I mean, I don't know, man. That whole conversation between Daredevil and Elektra, I think, was fine, genuinely. I don't know, man. I'm really liking Elektra's character overall.
Yeah, I like Elektra. She's cool, yeah.
Throughout this entire thing, like, it's generally, it's kind of gotten me excited for her series coming out.
Yeah, we're talking about that next week, yeah.
So yeah, because I'm really liking her. I'm generally liking her character more than I'm liking Matt overall.
They're about on equal footing for me right now.
I don't know, man. Matt is really. I've said my problems with him already. Like he doesn't know who he wants to be, whatever.
Here's the thing, though. Actually, because I meant to bring this up. They mentioned that in this issue, don't they? Because I think Fisk is saying like, you are fucking. Like, you're fucking shit, Matt. Like, with greed possessing him, he's like, you are splitting yourself between being this father Matt and being Daredevil, and you're so greedy that you can't have it both ways. So they brought that into the plot, actually. So I think that was actually kind of cool.
Yeah. I kind of forgot about that whole greed part, but, like, still, that's, like, the fact that they brought it up also just means that, like, he doesn't know what he fucking wants to do. And so, like, my point still further stands.
Sure, but I think now that means that the writers know that, and they are working
They will address it, yes.
Right.
And that's, that's what I want. So, going forward, they will address it. So that's good. But the Bullseye chasing Jason thing, like, for me, Bullseye, his dialogue was just weird,
I agree. Yeah.
It's just super weird. Like, I genuinely can't tell if that's just how he is under, like, this Kingpin, or if that's just, like, if he's, like, he just seems weird. I don't know what it is about.
No, I agree. I felt that this entire run as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's just super weird. Like, I don't think it's a demon at this point, because I feel like that'd be, like, way too coincidental for Bullseye and Kingpin to both have a demon.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know why Bullseye's acting super weird, but he is. And then I think, I don't know, my Father Javi theory is very out there. I understand, but it could also be Wrath. You have a fair point. We haven't really seen a demon like in a form like that. Really, we've only seen them in people.
No.
Afterwards, so like I don't see why it would be like this random demon dog, But it very well could be.
Didn't we see the first one that possessed Elektra when Matt exorcised her? I'm pretty sure we did, right?
Yeah, but it was like an old man.
It didn't look like that. Yeah. No,
and it was already in Elektra. I'm saying we haven't seen a demon outside of a person yet.
Yeah.
We've only ever seen them after they have possessed people. And I think
right.
I think the one that possessed Elektra, which Lust, I believe. No, not Lust. Sloth.
No, that was Sloth. Yeah.
Sloth. I think that's the only one we've seen besides Greed, actually,
Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah.
in like an actual like form or whatever.
And even
As-
Greed is still kind of in Fist. It's just physically
Yeah.
transforming Fist as well now.
Yeah. Which I don't. I guess I kind of do understand why he's having such a problem with Greed, because he does like it's like Pinkfin said in this one, like he doesn't know what he wants to do, and that's like
Yeah.
Like for the other ones, he's literally just said a prayer. I feel like, and like
Yeah.
that's been it. So I don't understand why he can't just do the same for Greed.
Yeah, I think Wolverine's the only one who hasn't quite been able to do that for yet.
Like no, he did. He just had to take it. He took him into the water and then said,
Yeah.
it, I think
It just took him a little bit longer.
it just took him a bit longer. But like, yeah, man, I think this is all right. Yeah. Daredevil's just been all right. It's a 7 right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7 as well. I was hovering between 6 and 7. I know I gave the last issue a 7. I do think this is not quite as good, but I do think there was enough interesting stuff in the back half of this issue that did get me somewhat interested. I think it was some cool ideas they were setting up there. Again, I have a big problem with the start of this issue, but I do think the back half was better. And so it did just tip it up into a 7 for me, but not by much.
Gotcha. Yeah.
All right, and that would lead into the last issue that's not an event, which would be The Ultimates #2.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, written by Dennis Camp, and the artist is Juan Fridery. So this series. So for anybody who doesn't know, the Ultimates are like they're the Ultimate Universe Avengers essentially. And going into this series, I wasn't super pumped for it because again, it's another one we didn't talk about issue #1. But so just based on the creative team, I mean, I like Juan Fridery's art quite a lot. He worked on about half of the most recent Iron Man run, and his art is very good there. But Dennis Camp, I had only ever read one. Like I before reading this issue, this series rather, I had only read 2 issues of his Marvel miniseries set during the Fall of X called Children of the Vault, and I didn't particularly love it, but everybody was super excited for this. And I know that this writer has also worked on a very, very critically acclaimed series called 20th Century Men, which everybody loves. I have never read that, but so that was kind of getting people really, really hyped for this. And yeah, after reading the first 2 issues, this series fucking rocks, man. I mean, issue 1 was awesome. Issue 2 is like just as awesome. This series is so cool. This issue, it's essentially, it kind of takes place around one event, which is the Ultimates go and they go to the White House where Midas is there. I'm assuming he's part of the Matrix Council.
I'm pretty sure he is.
Yeah, I don't remember for sure, but I think he is. And Midas, for anybody who doesn't know, he's much like the mythical Midas. He just has the power to turn anything he touches into gold. So in this, he's in like a gold Iron Man suit. It's actually like Iron Man's first suit, essentially, but it's gold. Which I guess would actually make it pretty much 1-to-1 Iron Man's second suit, because I think that is just the first suit, but gold. So they all go there. And it's intercut with us seeing Captain America going into this like projection area and kind of getting a full history of the entire world up to that point, kind of just fed into him through this program. He's been there for like 9 days straight. Through that, we see like Galactus invading and all this stuff. There's just a bunch of stuff we see kind of in the background there. So then, yeah, anyway, the Ultimates go, they beat up Midas. They have a big kind of discussion about capitalism. And then the Ultimates go down to the basement where they find America Chavez, who is powering like a whole bunch of the country. It's kind of a whole bunch of stuff going on there. And so Midas is saying like, hey, I win. You can't take her, because if you do, like planes will like lose support, like cars will like break down, a whole bunch of stuff will just like break down, and a lot of people will die. And they take her anyway. They just like, fuck you, Midas, and they bust America Chavez out of there, and that's where the issue ends. So again, just really, really cool series so far. I think all the Ultimates are cool so far, and they're all, you know, being written pretty in interesting ways and cool ways. And I think ultimately, what my favorite part of the series has been so far is how it's provided this sense of foreboding and urgency for the universe, because we now know definitively, like, this universe, at least for a while, is taking place in real time. It is actually going month by month. And, you know, I do still have some reservations about that, because I do think, like, you kind of run the chance of, like, not having, like, big moments play out on page if you're skipping a month every issue. But at the same time, it's also like, well, the events of one issue could potentially take place over like a span of a month. So there's no real reason that it would necessarily be a huge issue. It does just mean that it's hard to make multi-story arcs where like events are happening back to back to back, because you can't obviously do that when you're having a month between every issue. But this series really makes you feel that time moving sensation, where at the end of every issue, it says a certain amount of months remaining. So this one is 17 months remaining, because that is the countdown until the city from Ultimate Invasion unseals and the Maker gets back out. So we now have this ticking clock in this series, as the Ultimates are trying desperately to do whatever they can to make sure they are prepared for the reappearance of the Maker. So that means sometime around the end of next year, 2025, the Maker will pop out of the city, and presumably all hell will break loose. So that's just such a great way of providing real tension and stakes to this, because it's like, well, if they can't figure that shit out by this period in real time, shit's hitting the fan. It kind of makes you very aware of this presence in the background, and I think that's such a cool idea, and I think this series is playing into it really effectively. So great issue. This was a very serious contender for my pick of the week, and ultimately went to Transformers, but I thought this was fantastic.
No, yes, I thought this one was very, very good as well. I think this one, it in a way, it kind of reminded me of Avengers Twilight a little bit. With just Cap seeing basically how the Maker essentially took over the world while he was frozen, throughout the 79 years that he witnessed in 9 days. And that's what ultimately led him to just whilst he is Captain America and being all about America and freedom and all that stuff, and Midas basically talking about what exactly is America, what is freedom, these are just words, none of that, ultimately what does it mean. And for him to just save America Chavez, even though he knew it was gonna stop powering electricity to I think it was 2 states specifically that might have stated, traffic control towers, hospitals, all these things, people were gonna die if he took her, and he still took it anyway, simply because he knows at this point that there is no America really, there is no such thing until they take down the Maker ultimately, and bring down this whole council. Though I don't know, it just kind of reminded me a little bit of Avengers Twilight, with just how it was so focused on Cap this issue.
It's also set at the White House, which a lot of Avengers Twilight also was as well.
Yes, it was. But yeah. Just the way it just tackled the idea of really what is America in itself, because he was as Midas was saying in the issue, what is America really? America before was North America, South America, Central America, what is America really? America used to be all of that. That's
Midas's answer is essentially it is capitalism is America. It's the exchange of goods for money, and that's kind of the only constant presence throughout the entire country, and that's what will last. But the rest of it, the ideals and all that, will probably fall somewhere along the line.
Yeah. So ultimately, it's going to remind me very much of Avengers Twilight, and I really like this issue. Cool to see America Chavez.
She doesn't really do much in this issue.
No, she was knocked out the entire time. But going forward, hopefully she has a lot more to do. I assume we didn't see Thor or Sif or Doom this issue. I assume next issue we're gonna see what they were doing. But anyway, I really like this one. I think I'll give this one a 9.
I'm gonna give this one an 8. It's close to a 9, but I don't think quite there for me. And then question for you: do you want to do Absolute Power or Blood Hunt next? I mean, I know what I would choose, but
what would you choose?
I would do Absolute Power first.
All right, so we'll do Blood Hunt.
I knew you were gonna do that.
No, we'll do
Okay. All right. We're gonna start with Absolute Power, Task Force 7, #1, written by Leah Williams, and the artist is Caitlin Yarsky. Now, I know Sebastian has a problem with this as well. I'm gonna bring this up right away. This issue spoils stuff that happens in Wonder Woman #11, which, at the time of recording, that just came out today. But at the release of this issue, it was not out yet, so that kind of sucks. We have complained a lot about the Blood Hunt. Well, maybe we haven't complained per se, but we've been the Blood Hunt schedule is kind of fucked. But at least the Blood Hunt issues are not actively spoiling issues that have not dropped yet. So that is annoying, but whatever. I'm going to kind of ignore that for now. It's a different thing. Whatever. This issue deals with the Shazamily, particularly Billy and Mary. They have been depowered again in Wonder Woman 11, which was not out yet. And so they're hiding out at the Rock of Eternity with Mr. Dino. You know, Mr. Dino's going around. He's cataloging shit. And Mary and Billy are there. They're trying to find a weapon that can take down the Amazo robots and everything, since they know that the Amazo robots are still hunting them. Particularly the Superman Amazo robot is hunting them. So that Superman Amazo robot is able to hunt them because he and Waller have enlisted Parasite by essentially removing his power inhibitor, so that he's very hungry all the time now. And so he's able to go and hunt down the Shazamily. They find each other at the Rock of Eternity. There's some little slapstick stuff where Mr. Dino is mad about Mary and Billy fucking up some of the catalog, the categorization of the Rock of Eternity. There's a big paperwork gag when they try and rent out a sword to use. But then the Amazo robot and Parasite pop up, so Mr. Dino kind of protects them a little bit. Billy and Mary run for it, and then Black Adam shows up. And there's kind of a big fight between Black Adam and the Amazo robot. Billy and Mary come back to try and help him. But ultimately, it doesn't really work. Black Adam is able to the Amazo is able to absorb Black Adam's power. We also do find out, though, that when an Amazo robot absorbs the power of a character, it also absorbs some of their personality. So while it doesn't make it so that the Amazo robot doesn't want to take Black Adam's power, since he did take Superman's power, he is feeling remorse for taking Black Adam's power at the very least. So I think then Billy and Mary get depowered even more, because they still had a little bit of their power left.
Yes.
And then I think the Amazo robot just gets recalled or something, right? Or no, actually it gets them. So it gets Mary and Billy and throws them in Waller's Gamora compound area. We also see that Power Girl got captured there as well. I don't know if you noticed she's in the background of one of that.
I see that.
And then essentially Steve Trevor gets called in, and then he meets with Sergeant Steele from the Wonder Woman book. And Steele's like, "You work for me now, Steve." And Steve is like, "Fuck no, I don't." And that's where the issue ends. So if we put aside the spoiling of Wonder Woman, which is annoying, I think this issue was not bad, actually. I kind of liked the concept of this series, where we have an Amazo robot every week, for each one of the 7 members of the Justice League going and hunting down a hero. I think it's a cool concept. I think it expands the scope of this event, shows kind of what's happening on the more ground level stuff, shows different angles of what's happening to the other heroes. I think it's a cool concept. It was an easy enough read. I think the fights were all fine. I think some of the comedy was decent enough. It was not an amazing read, absolutely not. But I think it was a very just decent, solid story that I just had fun reading, ultimately. And so, I didn't mind this one at all. I wasn't really all that excited going into it, but I ended up kind of digging this one. I mean, not majorly, but I didn't mind it at all. I thought it was totally decent.
So, I mean, I guess putting aside the Wonder Woman thing, obviously, because that, like you said, that is just very annoying. I mean, ultimately, I don't know if I like this one too much. I understand the idea behind, the Amazo robots sucking up the power. They also suck up part of, the personality or whatever. But, this Amazo robot felt off, right? Because, Failsafe is supposed to be, essentially, linked up with each Amazo robot, right? And I think he's supposed to be controlling each of them to an extent.
I don't think he has direct control over them. I think you can recall them, but
maybe I misread that one. I think he can just see. No, he just they show a hive mind. I think he can see through them is what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
So okay, then that makes a bit more sense. I don't know. This Omega robot just felt off for me, right? I understand he felt remorse, right, or whatever, but at the same time, why was he breaking down?
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, he just starts saying a bunch of random words.
Yeah, and I was just okay, and then later on, I'm gonna skip ahead a bit here, but later on in the Green Lantern one, I think is what it is, or if it's in this one, I don't remember. But we see another Amazo robot, and they're completely fine. So I'm just not too sure if it's the fact that this Superman one has absorbed too much power, maybe,
or like it's just like too many conflicting personality. I don't know, but like it's just this one's off essentially. And so like the fight scene itself was like not that great either. Like it was just basically Black Adam just like completely shit talking this robot until he grabs his ankle, and then that's it. Like I was like, damn, like Black Adam's like mad shit talking just to get ankle grabbed to get all his powers sucked out of him in like a second. So whatever. Mr. Dinosaur's in here, fine and dandy. Yeah. Ultimately, I don't know if I liked this one specifically too much. I just like the Mazel robot just seemed off for me. Like I feel like that's not. It's really not what like they were like kind of like leaning towards, like showing off all of them at one point. I don't know, but yeah, I thought this one was fine. I gave it a 6.
I gave this one a 7. I think it was pretty decent. I also do think I like this series as well because again, it's an anthology series where we're gonna see each Amazo going after a different hero, and also every issue is written by a different writer. So if you don't like this one, it's gonna be a different writer. Might work much better the next one. So I like that idea quite a bit, and I just think it was a totally decent issue. So then we're gonna move on to Green Lantern number 13, written by Jeremy Adams. The artist is Fernando Pasarin, and there's a backup story written by Mark Guggenheim, and the artist is Matthew Clark. So again, this is I do think the most consistently very good series that DC currently has.
Yes,
and I think what I really liked about this issue is I think this issue very much takes the kind of Invincible style storytelling where it's just kind of, it's got its main story, but then it's got just a bunch of plot threads just building in the back each issue, building and building and building. And so then you can get these big climactic moments that feel really, really, important and like major payoff later down the line. But since it's also building a bunch of subplots even in those issues, then you can just kind of have that climactic feeling just keep going and just going and going and going and going, since there's always stuff building, so there's always stuff to pay off. This kind of reminded me of that. I think this is like perfect serialized storytelling in comics. There's a decent shot at this being my pick of the week as well, actually. So the main part of this, we have Hal. He has been captured by Waller, and he's being like beaten up by fucking King Shark. I'm assuming it's King Shark at least. So he's getting beat up by the shark. He manages to ultimately take down the shark by like headbutting him really hard or something. I don't really know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And then because of because he's held up in place by these like energy band things, which like they cause a lot of pain. Essentially, it links up to your pain receptors, and so it can be they can change the settings on these bands to then just set your pain receptors off like crazy. And so Hal is able to break out of them. You can just move your hands through them, but it just really, really hurts. But he has the willpower so that he doesn't pass out from it. So then he goes, he's just kind of escaping the facility. He's like, let's try and find my friends. And he sees like this big hangar full of a bunch of weapons and shit. And that's where his part of the story ends. There's also a bunch of stuff going on in the background. The other major part of the story is Alan Scott and a bunch of the Justice Society. So we have Stargirl is there. Jesse Quick is there. Hourman is there. Hawkman has a cameo apparently.
Yeah, he was in there.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of those guys. They're all fighting an Amazo robot, and then they're kind of on the back foot. But then they all get like teleported to a different area, and it's like, whoa, what's going on there? And that's going to be the plot of Task Force 7 number 3. Is we're going to find out what happens to them. Yes. Then we have a bit of Sinestro. Now, Sinestro has been kind of absent since the end of that first arc. Apparently, he's been off doing stuff in Kneel Before Zod and Super Sons. I haven't read that. But now he's just like, he's at like a volcano or something. He's like, I am now a Rage Lantern and I cannot stay on corridor. I have to kill everybody. And then he goes flying off. We have a little bit more of just looking in on Jess and the other Rebel Lanterns back at the Green Lantern Corps headquarters. Not much is done there. We don't really get anything new there, but it's just kind of like being like, hey, these guys still exist. Then we also have Premier Tharos is there, and he's doing some big energy thing with a big core of energy in the middle of the planet. Yep. And then we also have, so Carol at the end during the last issue went and helped Hal and kind of got back together with Hal, leaving her fiance at the altar. So now we have her fiance Nate. He's still in their Vegas hotel, and then he becomes one of the like Lanterns of Sorrow.
New emotion there.
Yeah, and that actually, kind of recontextualized that entire plot line for me, because I was starting to be like, okay, I like this book a lot. What's the deal with this love triangle? Why is this here? Like it didn't like make me hate the book or anything, but I was just like, this feels kind of out of place. Now it makes a lot of sense to bring this, Lantern of Sorrow into the mix. I think that makes a lot of sense. That's kind of it for the main story. Then the backup story. I don't know. Did you read the backup story for this one?
I didn't even realize there was one.
Yeah, so I did. I don't normally, but this is the origin of Tharos is in the backup story.
Okay, I did read this one.
Okay, yeah. It's his dad essentially got killed and replaced by another shapeshifter made to look like his dad. And this version of his dad was just like constantly beating the shit out of Tharos. And so Tharos tried to kill him later on in life, didn't work, but then finds him, or who he thinks to be him at least, because they're all shapeshifters, finds him trying to run the blockade to Earth, and then essentially gives him two choices. Either use the dagger, because he essentially, this guy that killed Tharos' dad, he was like, I will, if you try and kill me, I will make you cut your own throat with this dagger. So Tharos is like, you can either cut your own throat with this dagger, or I can go and let this other guy experiment on you. It's very painful. He will keep you alive, and you will feel everything. And so then the shapeshifter kills himself, and that's the end of the backup story. Backup story, again, I have kind of shied away from reading backup stories and a lot of stuff recently, because I do think it's just there's a lot to read, and some of it I'm not as interested in.
Yeah.
But this one I think is actually it's good in that it fleshes out Tharos, gives you his kind of more of his motivations. I think it helps build up his character more to make him a more compelling villain going forward. So that's all good stuff there. And the main stuff, I think the main Hal plot is good. I think the Amazo fight is good, but it's that background stuff that I'm really interested in. And I think like since that, because I remember at the end of the first arc, I was saying like, I like this. I think it's cool, but I do wish they hadn't just gone straight to Sinestro again, that they were doing some more stuff with it. But now, I mean, since then, this series has just been throwing really cool, interesting new concepts out. It's doing more of that again with this issue with the Lantern of Sorrow. I'm curious to see what's happening with Tharos and that big energy thing. I love the concept of the switching of the emotional spectrum that the lanterns can now do. So I'm even like, I'm excited to see how Sinestro plays back into it now that he's a Rage Lantern. Like, all that stuff is great. Really, really great. I think the main parts of the story are both good. I don't think they're amazing though. So ultimately, that's why I'm not rating this a little bit higher. But I think this was really, really great. Really solid issue as always, and just a really great tie-in as well to this that feels again natural, because it's been built up to that like Waller is the reason for the quarantine around the Earth. Like, so then when this kind of stuff gets brought back into it, even though it is a tie-in, it doesn't feel like it interrupts the flow of the story. And that's also helped by the fact that these background plot threads are still building. So just very good issue across the board. I don't really have any complaints on it. Just thought it was very good.
No, yeah. Ultimately, I think Green Lantern is like it's very, very good. Still one of the better DC books going on right now. This one, honestly, for me, it felt really long simply because of how many stories were in it. Not to say that they weren't bad. I didn't think any of them were like really bad by any means. It definitely felt long because of how many stories they were telling. So the Hal Jordan one, that was very absolute power heavy. We never actually saw if oh my god, what's her name?
Carol.
Do we know if she also got captured by Waller? We're assuming she did, yeah, right? Because
maybe I don't think she's in this issue, so I don't know.
I mean, she's not. I don't know. But yeah, so I don't know who knows what happened. I mean, they were together, so that's why I'm assuming she also was. But I don't know. So yeah, so that's one thing. The Alan Scott Green Lantern is facing off an Amazo, and they all teleport because of Alan Scott. So that Amazo was like sucking up the like Ring's power essentially. But I guess like he gets his Ring power from something called like the Star Heart. And I guess he's like super connected to that he was able to actually take back the Ring's power from the Amazo robot, and in doing so he like teleported himself and Stargirl out of there. I think those are the only two that actually got out, because he did take Jesse Quick's, but the Amazo robot did take Jesse Quick's power. So yeah, we're gonna learn more about that in Absolute Power Or what is it?
Task
What is that
Force
one?
7.
Task Force 7, Absolute Power. And then we get more of the whole Rebel thing and the Green Lanterns. With Jessica Cruz. Is it okay? Kyle Rayner, right, is the one that was like the White Lantern, right? That like held every single Spectrum ring at one time.
I have no idea.
Damn, I'm like almost positive.
I'm not up to date on my Green Lantern lore.
No, because like I think it was the end of like Blackest Night, that Blackest Night series or whatever.
Yeah, I never read Blackest Night. Yeah.
I swear it was Kyle Rayner. That's why I think that's why he looks like weirdly rainbowish-y in this one. I don't know if did you notice that?
Yeah, he definitely had some like light pouring off of him or something.
Yeah. So I'm like almost positive it was Kyle Rayner that was like the White Lantern or whatever. And then the whole Tharos backstory. I thought that was actually very interesting. Just like him explaining how he has like basically survived and like how he was like basically a nobody, but he like rose to power as like Lord Premier and all that stuff. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, ultimately I think this one was very good. It just felt very long with all the different stories. That is basically my only complaint about it. But other than that, very good. I enjoyed it, and I'd give it a 7.
I'm giving it an 8. Almost a 9, but not quite.
Hey, yeah, there you go.
All right, that would lead us into the Blood Hunt block for the episode, starting with Avengers number 16. So I brought this up briefly when we were talking about X-Men. It's written by Jed McKay. The artist is C.F. Villa. This is the finale of the Blood Hunt arc in Avengers. So yeah, I think the team dynamic has kind of crumbled a little bit for me in this arc.
Definitely has. I think it's mostly due to the fact that they're like so separated or something, or it's Quicksilver for me. Honestly, he is different.
I don't like. No, this is comic Quicksilver. I don't like him. I've never really liked comic Quicksilver. This is how his character's always been. He sucks.
But like, I didn't feel like he hasn't felt like this for like the past. What is it, 2? I think we've gotten so far of the Avengers at this point.
Sure. I don't necessarily agree, but I don't think it got as much play in those as he did here. But I think it is that they're all split up. And again, that brings us back to our whole fucking criticism of that first whole arc, where it's like, put the Avengers together and have them fight as a team, please. At least some of the time. But yeah, so essentially, Cap is piloting the helicarrier. He and Baron Blood have a big fight while the rest of them are trying to save the civilians. They do manage to save most of the civilians. They jettison them out in the lifeboats and everything. And then, the way that they like beat Baron Blood is that Cap and Quicksilver are on comms, and Cap essentially baits Baron Blood into saying that all the other vampires, his army, are replaceable. And then Quicksilver shows that audio to the vampires and is like, hey, don't blow up the reactor so that we can all like, leave. What is weird to me about this is the vampires are like, if we don't blow up the reactor, if we go out there, will you let us live? And Quicksilver's like, yeah, sure. He does, then he kills them all anyway. But he's like, yeah, sure. That's weird to me though, because the vampires, like a page before, were saying like, we will die for Baron Blood and our memory will live on in his mission.
Yeah.
Like, why then are they so suddenly do they flip so hard? I think the implication is that it's supposed to be because it shows that Baron Blood doesn't value them and he thinks they're dumbasses and everything, and that's kind of the point of it. But it's still like, I don't know, surely they would have known that. Like, surely they would have known they're replaceable. That's why they're kind of there, ultimately. So it just kind of felt weird that they switched so quickly on that. And then, so Baron Blood, he gets like thrown out. He doesn't get thrown out. He's like, okay, well, I'm gonna dip now because this helicarrier is not gonna explode anymore. Also, they pilot the helicarrier up through the Dark Force energy, so the vampires can like be disintegrated now.
Yes.
They portholed over they covered the windows, so they can't like they're still not being directly incinerated in the helicarrier, but they can be taken out by the sun now. And then Baron Blood just like jumps out the window. He's like, I will fly down on the winds and I will survive. And then Kate presumably shoots him with an arrow. That's where the issue ends. We don't see it happen, so he's probably still alive at some point.
He's probably still alive due to comic rules.
Yeah. So this issue, I don't think it was that great, actually. I think this arc started very strong and got
Yeah.
weaker with each issue.
Yeah.
And so, like, I mean, it's fine, but I don't think we had any characters really have any standout moments in this issue. There wasn't any fun teamwork stuff in this issue. And it's a shame because this team roster is much more interesting than the main one because it's different, it's more unique. And I think it started strong. But yeah, this again makes me feel like, well, shit. Like, the team dynamic just feels off. And I think it's also, even though I liked X-Men #1, and I feel like the team dynamic was working fairly well there, it does make me think, well, it started working well in this arc here, so will it stay working there? I don't know. But more than that, I am now starting to have some questions about where this series is going, because we have been ignoring the main plot of this series for kind of a while now.
Yes, we have.
Because we had the arc which ended in issue number 10. That was dealing with the whole council and everything, and Kang was there, and that was kind of the last big advancement of the main plot with the tribulation events and all that stuff getting set up there. Then we had a one-off Jarvis issue. I was cool with that. We had the 2 issues that were tying into Fall of the House of X. I was mostly fine with that. I thought that was fine because they had to kill time until Blood Hunt. We got the Blood Hunt arc. I was mostly fine with that because Jed McKay's writing Blood Hunt, and it made sense to have this issue, this arc tie into Blood Hunt since it's a series that he's also writing. But now, the next at least 2 issues, or at least the next issue, but I think the issue after that as well, are taking a completely different angle. They're going in next issue. Apparently, Storm is not apparently. She's on the cover. They keep saying it. Storm is joining the Avengers. I don't have a problem with that. I like Storm. She's been an Avenger in the past. I think she fits on the team. I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. However, they are taking at least 2 issues, it seems, to establish her joining the team. And also in issue 18, somebody is leaving the team, and they're fighting Hyperion. And so it's like, and I don't have a problem with that stuff in concept. I'm actually really excited to see Storm join the team and see what this next arc is going to be like. But like, where's the main plot? Like, where is it? When are we getting back to it? I didn't even like that plot that much, but it was clearly building something. And it's just like, it feels weird to not have any sort of advancement of that, not moving towards a resolution for like at least 6 issues and potentially 8 or more if the next 2 issues don't do anything to move that forward. So structurally, this run is starting to really just like spread itself all over the place. And I think it is making it feel, I think it's definitely making it feel less cohesive and less, just put together. And so it's like, where is this connecting thread? So I don't know. Issue itself, not great. I don't think it was fine, but not amazing. Definitely a disappointment. And the arc as a whole, I'm just now like, what the fuck is happening? Where are we going with this? The series has kind of gone off the rails a little bit. So I'm definitely not loving this series right now, and I didn't love this issue.
No, yeah, I didn't think this issue was all that great either. I think the whole Baron Blood character, honestly, is just like fucking boring. Just how it was just like Cap's old enemy turned fucking vampire. Just like, like, okay, that's fine, whatever. But it's just like, it's boring, honestly. I think, like Hazmat and Hercules have some like good dynamic. Quicksilver, Kate, like they were kind of a team throughout this, but like Quicksilver fucking character is an ass, honestly.
Yeah, Quicksilver sucks. I don't like him.
Fucking sucks, really. And then just Cap v Baron Blood. I don't know, man. I think it was fine. I guess it wasn't the best. It really wasn't. I think the best Blood Hunt one, like Avenger one we got was like the first one, and then it just went downhill after Baron Blood got introduced. Just nothing great. And so, I'm honestly going to miss this team because, like you said, I really liked their chemistry at first.
Yeah.
So I am going to miss this team. But overall...
I think they are getting a miniseries, but it's written by Steve Orlando, so...
yeah, okay. But at that point, like, why? Honestly.
No, I agree. Yeah.
But, honestly, overall, kind of sad that it, ended badly. Because, like I said, I did like this team, and I wanted to see more of them interact because I think they had good interactions at the beginning. Like actually working as a team, but like once they separated in the ship and, Cap went off to do his own thing, and it just felt like just not. So yeah, overall, kind of honestly. I really didn't like the whole Baron Blood thing. I think it would have been better if they just were just fighting vampires, like not Baron Blood, just like stay on the ground fighting vampires. something happened on the team, maybe. I don't know. I think that would have been better. But yeah, 6.
6 for me as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Next up, we have Hulk Blood Hunt, issue number 1. It is the only issue of this series. It is a one-shot written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, and the artist is Danny Earls. Interestingly, because this is the same writer as the current Incredible Hulk run, but it's the artist of the Frozen Charlotte art, I believe, which I didn't love in that context, but I think the art really worked here. Actually, I think the art was pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't mind it.
I didn't like it.
Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, though, I don't know if I actually might not have minded it in the Frozen Charlotte art, because I remember saying how much it looked like Bloodborne, and I thought that was really cool. So maybe I actually didn't mind it to begin with. But this issue, this should have just been part of the main series, I think. Because it is in between the previous 2-issue Soul Cage arc, or 3 issues. I don't know. I think it was only 2 issues though, the previous couple issues. And it's right before it's on the road. Where Bruce is on the road to Vegas to try and free Charlie from the doll that she got put into from Frozen Charlotte. So he's on the way to Vegas, and the next issue is him. The actual issue of Incredible Hulk, the next one proper, dropped today on the day we're recording this. And I know he does go to Vegas in that for that purpose. So, I think this could have just been an issue of Incredible Hulk. And actually, it almost doesn't even feel like this was supposed to be a Blood Hunt issue, because this could have just been any random monster. It just happens to be vampires. So essentially, he goes into this little town. It's a ghost town. It's like a movie set where they filmed just a bunch of westerns. He meets this guy there. This guy, he was an immigrant from Mexico. Yep. He and his family, they immigrated over. And while they were going, they went by night. And while they were going, the ground opened up. There were bodies everywhere they saw. There were bodies everywhere. The ground opened up, and these vampires popped out, dragged the whole family down to this pit in the earth. And then this guy who's working at the movie set, his whole family got bitten and turned. Somehow his mom was able to climb up this sheer cliff face with him in her arm and managed to get him back up to the top. It's a sheer fucking cliff face, and it was tall. But regardless, that's fine. Maybe she had started to have vampire strength by that point. But so he ran, he escaped, and he got kind of taken in with this family and kind of got raised by them and has worked on this movie set his entire life. And essentially, he's also saying that that's how these vampires survived, is they would essentially wait till nightfall when a bunch of immigrants would kind of pass over this area, and then they would just pop out and eat them and whatever. And so back to the present, this dude who's working there is like, hey, sorry, Bruce, all the vampires are actually here. And so so Bruce hulks out, fights all the vampires, including this dude's family that's also there, and then he goes on his way. So yeah, kind of barely a Blood Hunt tie-in, but cool as hell, actually. I think this was a pretty cool story. I liked the concept of these vampires in the earth. It was a new inventive spin on it. I thought that was really cool. I thought the Hulk action sequence was pretty decent. I think the backstory on these vampires was cool. I think it did a good job of making you connect to the person working in this town. I found his character sympathetic and his motivations believable. So just a really solid story. I mean, would it have looked better if Nick Klein was on the art for this? Probably yes. Yes. But it's a spin-off one-shot tie-in, so it doesn't bother me. It does feel like it's disconnected enough in that regard. It's not part of the main series, so I don't mind having a guest artist on this, and I didn't mind the art to begin with, actually. And so yeah, just a very solid issue. Definitely my favorite of the Blood Hunt issues this week for sure, by far. And yeah, I think just even if this wasn't just the core Incredible Hulk run, I think it would be a very solid issue of it. So I quite liked it.
Man, okay, so honestly, yeah, I just read a Hulk issue this week, dude. This isn't Blood Hunt. It is just Hulk.
It is, but yeah.
So okay, I didn't overly love the art on this. I know I didn't mind it in the Frozen Charlotte one. I hated the story for Frozen Charlotte. I didn't.
Yeah, I know you
commented too much on the art on that one. But I didn't really enjoy the art on this one, honestly. Story-wise, I thought it was fine. It's like you said, I just don't understand why they made this a Blood Hunt one, honestly. Because even the vampires themselves, were we know you, you're the monster thing, and they kind of mentioned the whole
eldest is looking for you or whatever. Yeah.
Thing. Yeah. So it's just okay. So this is just like everything that live, like every monster that live underground, just no Eldest at this point. Like I don't, because
Yeah,
like
I think so.
who the fuck is
I
Eldest?
mean, Eldest is like the mother of monsters or whatever, right?
But like,
Actually, no, the mother of monsters is different. I think Eldest is the god that like the mother of monsters kind of worships.
dude, it's all confusing. Fuck that. But anyway, yeah, I don't know, man. I just really didn't enjoy reading this one too much. You know, the whole like thing of like, what's the man's name?
I think it's Miguel. I'm not sure though.
I'm gonna keep calling him Miguel. Him like basically betraying basically like anybody that passes through there. And like just giving them up to the vampires so they don't kill him in general. Like that's
Well, it wasn't so they didn't kill him. It was because his family was there asking him to feed them. And
yeah.
that they were starving and that they were suffering. And that's why he was doing it.
Yeah, so they didn't kill him.
No, well, it wasn't that he didn't want them to kill him. It's that he wanted to provide for his family because he felt bad that they were suffering. That's what I took it as.
He wanted to provide. He would have fed them himself, dog. You know.
Or he could have fed them a nice gourmet meal from Raising Cane's. This episode is brought to you by Raising Cane's.
You know, that would actually have been like the perfect, like
Yeah.
perfect ad.
Like, this episode is not sponsored, by the way. I just want to make sure I say
like
that.
such a good flowing right there. It's just like you pull it out, the stops, just reading from a card right there.
Yeah.
Just, you know, oh my gosh, that would have been great. But yeah, I don't know. I thought this one was fine. Overall, it was a very easy read. Like it went by in a breeze. And so like I don't know, man. I just don't understand. I feel like they didn't really need to include this Hulk one at all. Like,
I agree. But I'm also not angry that they did. I liked it enough that I don't mind that it's here.
I think they did it just for people to be like, what about the Hulk? What if he becomes a vampire? And it's like, well, no, he can't.
I mean, I don't know. We thought that Wolverine couldn't become a vampire, and we'll talk about it later, but he does.
But that's unfair in a sense. He has a workaround for that, but you know, whatever. Ultimately, I thought this one was okay. I feel like it was a very unnecessary addition to this whole like thing. Honestly, 7.
I give it an 8. All right, next up would be Union Jack the Ripper Blood Hunt number 3. This is the final issue of Union Jack the Ripper Blood Hunt. Written by Cavan Scott, and the artist is Kev Walker. This issue takes things out of the compound where they were at earlier, where Union Jack was hanging out, where he was keeping Bulldog. So the whole crew go, and they kind of follow Bulldog's inclination towards the King of Manchester, which is the vampire that is ruling Manchester. We find out his name is Hunger. Yeah, and so they go find him. He's in like I don't know where he is. It looks like a church, but it probably isn't, because vampires and religion and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So they have a big fight. Essentially, during this fight, one of them ends up hurting Bulldog, which they find out also hurts the Hunger vampire guy.
Vampire,
yeah. Every time a vampire that he turned gets hurt, it also then hurts him.
Yes.
So Bulldog acts like he's betraying Union Jack and turns him into a vampire because he thinks that will mean that Jack will have a better shot at damaging Hunger. This is after, by the way, he's already been like stabbed through the chest by Hunger. Like he's gonna die anyway.
Yes, he is.
So Bulldog turns him, and then ultimately Bulldog's like, okay, to Mara, he's like, fucking start shooting me like crazy. So she does. That ends up really hurting Hunger. Hunger dies, and they all turn back into not vampires, or Jack does. Bulldog might be dead. Does he survive? I don't remember.
No, Bulldog's head got blown off. Even if he turned back into a non-vampire, I think he'd still be dead.
That's what I thought. Yeah. This issue was not bad. I like the art. I think the art's pretty cool. I like the design of Hunger. You know, I think it was a decent action sequence. I like how this capped off the series.
Yeah.
And even though I didn't love the first issue in particular, I do like how this series had a very clear goal from the start, and it just progressed. Well, maybe not from the start. It had a clear goal from issue number 2, I'll say.
Yeah.
And it progressed well to that goal. It just felt like a nice little like side quest in a video game kind of thing. And it was. I ended up being more positive towards this series than I thought I would be at the start. I didn't think I was gonna like this series at the start. I didn't end up minding it. Is it great? No, it's not even the best Blood Hunt tie-in, not by a long shot, but I think it's totally fine. a decent enough ending for a decent enough series ultimately.
Yeah, no, I mean, I actually quite enjoyed the ending as well. I thought the ending was very good. Ultimately, I think this is like one of the only ones from Union Jack the River Blood Hunt that like ultimately I didn't actually mind reading. The other two I just really couldn't get behind the characters. I could care less about them. And honestly, in this one, it's kind of the same.
Yeah, I do still
Ultimately,
agree with that. Yeah.
I still just could care less for the characters, but I think the way they just ended all of it was just very they ended it very like satisfactory. Just with the way like how it like all like came to a close. They didn't like really leave something like vaguely open or whatever. And yeah, I think the way it all came out, how the way it all ended was very like well done. Basically how like yeah, like you said, like Union Jack got turned by Bulldog, and because of that he was able to like survive a little bit longer, and his like conviction was super strong that he wasn't under the Hunger's control either, which like deterred Hunger for a little bit. Bulldog got shot in the head, which hurt Hunger, which ultimately was allowed Union Jack to like kill Hunger, which ultimately turned everybody that Hunger did turn back into normal people. So one of the people that was like just a regular person that Union Jack saved from the first one got turned in this one as well. She got turned back, and then also Union Jack himself got turned back into a regular person, which further solidifies my theory as to what the fuck is going to happen to Miles. Why is he staying a goddamn vampire? We clearly see here that killing them is the only option, one of the only options at this point. We have seen 3 separate options. We'll see. I don't know why still. But anyway, yeah, ultimately, very satisfying ending. Actually, very good ending. And I quite enjoyed this one, actually. I gave this one 8. Yeah, I gave it an 8.
I'm gonna give it a 7. I did like Bulldog's kind of whole journey here. I liked that that he ultimately wasn't under Hunter's control, and I think a big part of that was probably because he had just had a delicious Caniac combo from Raising Cane's. It's full of 6 beautifully cooked chicken fingers with 2 cane sauces, a bunch of fries, a nice thing of coleslaw, and a big old thing of Texas toast. So, Raising Cane's, it's a great meal to stop you from turning into a vampire. So Raising Cane's, if you want to sponsor us, we'll take it. That would lead us into the final episode of the final episode. This is the final episode of the show.
Final episode of the show.
Because we'll have that Raising Cane's money, so we won't need to do any more episodes of the show. No, the final episode. God damn it! I just fucking did it. The final issue of this episode, Wolverine Blood Hunt number 3, written by Tom Waltz. The artist is Juan Jose Reap. This is the second to last issue of this series. Okay. Right off the bat, Wolverine's making too many fucking quips in this issue. I don't know what the fuck was going on. No, he made a bunch, dude. First off, it starts off with him making ocean puns. He's like, I've got a sinking feeling that we might be out of our depth, as he's literally sinking into the ocean. I'm like, shut the fuck up, man. This is not Wolverine dialogue. And he's like quipping to Mav and Louise. He's quipping to everybody. He's quipping too much. I actually meant to. I don't have the issue in front of me, but I meant to like write down what the fucking like the list of quips were, because God, just some of the stuff he was saying, I'm like, this is a fucking MCU character dialogue line, not a comic Wolverine line. But so anyway, he fights off a bunch of him and Louise. They fight off the aquatic vampires that they were faced with at the end of the last issue. That takes up a good chunk of the issue. They go to Maverick's base. They have to fight some like ninja vampires in Maverick's base. And Maverick is kind of talking to Logan a little bit here, and it's here we realize that he can't see Louise Night Guard because she's also a vampire, so we can't see her on the camera. So we just think that Wolverine's alone, which gives them a strategic advantage, obviously. So they fight all those vampires, and then once they realize that Night Guard is off camera, that's when Logan is like, all right, Night Guard, turn me into a vampire. So then I will also not be on the camera. We can just go and surprise Maverick and everything. And so the way he accomplishes this is he stabs himself through the chest, which makes his healing factor work overtime to keep him alive. And thus, when Louise bites him, it actually can affect him, turn him, and change him into a vampire legitimately. Yeah, so then they run into Maverick and Alyssa, who is the other vampire who Maverick has been working for. And she's like, hey, Wolverine, I want you to be my king. I'm queen of the vampires, or I will be. Just she's essentially like, we're going to take over once this whole like Dark Force vampire invasion thing is kind of done. We're going to let them do the hard work, and we're just going to come and kill those fuckers because, then we'll be able to take over and rule the vampires. And she's like, I want you to be my king, Wolverine. And that's the end of the issue. So the quips, I don't like. What I did like in this issue, the action's decent. I think the action's not bad. It is brought down by the fact that it is narrated by this dumb fucking quippy dialogue. But the action itself is not bad. And I liked the fact that we got to see different groups of vampires, these different, like cultural offshoots of vampires. I thought that was all really cool. I was confused about the aquatic vampires at first, when they popped up at the end of the last issue. But I think in context of this issue, it did make sense, and I was kind of more on board with it.
What exactly were you confused about?
I was just like, what the fuck are these, like, why are these vampires, like, fucking, like,
Watery?
Atlanteans? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just confused
Watery.
about it. I was like, why? I didn't know these existed. I was like, what the fuck's the deal with these guys?
Okay.
Yeah. So I liked that part of it. I am wondering how Logan is gonna become not a vampire anymore.
I think it's
He's
just
not
gonna kind of be like T'Challa, where it just like the healing just like overrides it at some point.
Sure, but his healing factor is so quick that the only way I can imagine him not immediately healing is for him to just keep the sword in him the whole fucking time, which I don't think he's gonna do. So I don't know. Regardless, though, it's a totally fine issue. I don't mind it at all. I don't mind it I don't mind it generally. Again, didn't like Logan's dialogue.
Yeah.
But besides that, I thought it was fine. I thought the action stuff was cool enough. I thought the different vampires were cool enough. Only one issue left. Kind of feels like there's maybe more ground than one issue to cover still. But I thought it was fine. I didn't mind it. It was okay.
I mean, I thought this one was pretty good. I've enjoyed. I think for the most part, I've enjoyed all of the Wolverine Blood Hunts. I think this one definitely had too much narration. I didn't really notice as much quippiness as you're saying. But I do feel like it was over narrated. That's for sure.
Yeah.
There was a lot of blue dialogue boxes from Wolverine. I think, like you said, the action was very good. I will say I did notice one quip, which was like that when the sharks came after there was like a lot of blood in the water.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was specifically like a quip, but
I don't remember what he said, but I remember seeing that moment as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think, the healing factor vampirism thing, that's a bit technical at that point. Like, ultimately, I don't know how the fuck that works. Because, like, right, I understand how, like, he stabbed himself, and so his healing factor is focusing more on that rather than the vampirism gene or whatever taking over his body. But, like, you'd assume, like you said, like he'd have to leave the sword in himself so that the vampirism doesn't just get healed away.
Yeah.
But like later on, we literally, like, we see him running through and the sword's not in him, but he's still a vampire.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Right. So like, I don't, ultimately, I don't know how that works. I assume it's just gonna kind of be like Black Panther's thing, where it's just like the healing factor just like eventually just overrides it. Maybe it just takes longer because like the vampirism has like set in. So it just like takes a bit longer to like just heal it, but ultimately I really don't know. Obviously, I doubt he's gonna kill Night Guard.
No way. Yeah.
So, but ultimately I didn't mind it. I actually thought the art's great, I think, and I really like the action in it. So yeah, ultimately I think the Wolverine Blood Hunts have been pretty good so far, and I'm enjoying them. I gave it an 8.
I gave it a 6. I just thought it was okay.
What
yeah.
the? God, the quips really gotcha, man.
Yeah, it would have been a 7 without the quippy dialogue, but it's a 6 with it. Yeah. I will say, though, this might be my favorite cover of the week. It's a pretty cool cover. I do like that quite a bit. But, that would wrap it up for this episode. Next week, we got some other stuff. We got more Blood Hunt stuff, of course. Amazing Spider-Man, Blood Hunters, Dracula Blood Hunt, and X-Men Blood Hunt Laura Kinney the Wolverine, which is a fucking mouthful of a title.
Yeah.
We also have more Absolute Power stuff. A couple of more Absolute Power tie-ins with Superman and Wonder Woman, the Wonder Woman issue that the other one spoiled. We've also got the start of a new Daredevil miniseries. We made kind of brief mention of this earlier. It's Daredevil Woman Without Fear, which is starring Elektra as Daredevil. She's fighting Crossbones. Also, this is interesting in that it's the next place where, actually the first place outside of his own origin miniseries, where the new Punisher, Joe Garrison, is going to be showing up. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how that goes. Destro number 2 from the Energon universe. I didn't love the first issue. Of course, I love the Energon universe, so I'm excited for more of this. But I'm not quite as pumped for this as I am for some of the other series. Green Lantern War Journal number 11. I did pick this up. We've been back and forth on this quite a bit. I did pick it up, though, so I am planning on reading this. It's the second to last issue of this series. We also have the new issue of Immortal Thor, the annual, which is tied into the Infinity Watch thing. It is written by Al Ewing, but, like, fuck, man, I'm not that excited for this Infinity Watch stuff, so I don't know how to feel about this. Incredible Hulk 14 looks great. Everything I've seen of this issue looks really cool. I'm really excited for that. That's also where the weapon extraction kind of mini backup story thing with Deadpool and Wolverine is going on. It starts in this issue. I don't care about that, but it's there. A new Namor the Submariner series is starting, written by Jason Aaron, who I find to be very hit or miss. I am going to check this out. I'm not positive I'm going to read this all the way through, but I am probably going to give it at least 2, maybe 3 issues, depending on how much I like it starting off with. So we'll see on that one. Phoenix number 1, the next book in the new X-Men series, the new X-Men era. This is written by Stephanie Phillips, who wrote Grimm, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I am, again, I can't help but be excited for X-Men stuff. I love X-Men, so I am so excited for this. New issue of Redcoat. I like Redcoat so far. I think it's good. I'm excited for this one. I hear this one's also like maybe the best issue of Redcoat so far, so that's cool. New issue of Titans. I've liked this series so far. However, I am starting to consider dropping this book. I'll give it at least this next issue and maybe a couple more. I don't know if I'm going to stick with Titans that much longer, though. I'm kind of feeling I'm feeling like Titans the same kind of way I'm feeling about Daredevil right now. Except I don't care about the Titans as much as I care about Daredevil. So we'll see. And then new issue of Ultimate X-Men. Series is great so far. It's very good, at least. I don't know if I'd say it's great, but I like it quite a lot. It's a strong and very unique book in the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah. Anything you want to shout out on your end?
Nope.
Okay. Well, that'd wrap it up for this episode. Thank you again, as always, everybody, for watching or listening. If you are on YouTube, you can, of course, like the video. And you can subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the video and you would like to see more of our videos. You can also hit the bell notification to be notified when we post new videos so that you do not miss any. You can also leave us a comment letting us know what you think about the current comics that you have been reading, what some of your favorite series are that you may recommend to us that maybe we're not reading as well, or some of the stuff that we are reading that you also really enjoy, or some of the stuff that we don't enjoy that you do really enjoy. You can also get in contact with us at our email address, which is earthsmightieastcomicspod@gmail.com. That is all one word. You can also follow the show on Spotify if you are listening on Spotify so that you do not miss any episodes over there as well. Again, thank you as always, everybody, for listening or watching, and we will see you all in the next episode.